You sure can fit a whole load of tone in this bad boy. Let's check out the Bogner Ecstasy Pandora head. Today we're going to be looking at the Bogner Ecstasy Pandora head. Now this is a 100-watt head that celebrates all of the modded versions and the original version of the Ecstasy amp by Bogner. There is a lot to be getting on with today, so I'm not going to waste any time and we're just going to dive right in. We're going to split this video up into chapters as usual, so if there's a particular channel, there's a particular feature that you do just want to see, that will be in the description below and the timeline, but let's just start right with channel 1. So channel 1 can be considered our clean channel. I've actually even played with the controls just a little bit before this demo here by raising the gain all the way up, and it does have quite a remarkable amount of headroom as well, so this would be obviously a great pedal platform or just a clean channel. This is how it's set up right now, just with all the EQ pretty flat, and we've also got the 101 setting on the input, and I'll just change over to that just in a second to hear what the classic sounds like. If I would just switch that and switch just over there to classic, it does give it a slightly different sort of sound. One of the big differences between each channel as well is that you actually are getting an independent EQ for the clean as you are getting for the shared channels for 2 and 3. That's when we're moving on to our more sort of gain side of here. So if we were to just see where these are kind of sort of extremes of these are, I'll just start kind of changing the settings just as I'm playing through just a couple of chords here, just so you can see where the EQ shape and scope is going. So loads of scope with the EQ there to really dial in what you need out of it. But one of the cool things about this amp is that there are a lot of different switches just on the top here, which I've not even got into all the switches on the back as well. It's quite a It's quite a sort of intimidating amp, but don't worry, it's not too much to get your head around. Everything it all does work well with what, you know, it's intended to work with, and it's not too much to actually get your head around. So for example, these two switches that are just above our channel 1 here, we have a gain boost and we have a pre-EQ switch, which are giving you 2 bright caps. It was just on the normal setting there. I'll just play it on the normal and then I'll switch it over to each bright setting just so you can hear exactly what it is doing. And actually going back to that normal channel after initiating, especially that bright 2 position there, it almost does sound like your amp is too dark just from how much additional brightness that is giving you. So depending if obviously you've got different guitars that you're going to be using through this, maybe you're going to set the normal one to something like, you know, a Strat like the Sur Classic S that I'm playing today, or something like a Les Paul, you know, as your other guitar. You can maybe initiate one of those bright positions there, just to give you just a little, kind of more of a bit of a balance between those sounds, you know. You're also getting a gain boost for channel 1 here as well, and kind of like I was saying, the gain in itself, it doesn't really break up like that easy. It does have a lot of headroom in it, and I'm going to just reference with Aaron, who's in the room recording with me just now, just to make sure that the levels are actually fine for this, as well as when you raise the gain on it, the volume does kind of jump up just that little bit. I got the big thumbs up. And actually saying that, when you do kind of crank it and put it on the humbucker there, you are getting, you know, a little bit of that kind of crunch. You're maybe getting to those kind of crunchy levels, but if we initiate that gain boost, you'll hear just the difference in that as well. So that could act as a crunch if you did need it, but in all honesty, with this amp, because of how versatile and how much you're getting out of it, channel 2 is really where all the crunch gets going. So I've just switched that over to channel 2. That's where the blue light is coming in, and we've actually just activated the presence and the depth as well, which we'll just get to in just a second. But here's the sound of that second channel, with everything again pretty kind of neutral going on. So you're not getting up to those super searing levels, but if you do want that kind of, you know, mid to almost high gain, this second channel is absolutely great for that, certainly for rhythm stuff as well. Now I was noticing that for the settings that I had it on there, that it was just a little bit kind of bass heavy, so I'm maybe going to just roll that off ever so slightly. But then, much like the first channel as well, there is actually the inclusion of 2 bright caps per channel. So on channel 2, you've got its own pre-EQ brightness there, and then you've also got it for channel 3. So I've just activated that on the first brightness there. I'm going to keep it on the humbucker of this guitar, and let's just see what that does for us. So you can get that just to kind of clean up that a little bit in terms of, you know, when you kind of start to crank that gain on the distortion channels there, on the overdrive and the distortion channel, it can get a little bit kind of just bottom heavy, and I'm definitely feeling that here as well, because this guy is a full-blown 100-watt valve head. I've got it running at 50 watts just now, just so that I'm not, you know, completely shaking the foundations of this room here. But there are just noticeable when you, like I said, when you kind of crank that gain up there, it can just get a little bit woofy. So having that bright options there with each channel, it really does help just kind of clean it up. Now there's an extra couple of options with it as well, as I said, over on this side, but I'll finish up just talking about some of these switches here as well. For example, let's try what the classic setting on the input is. So actually I'll start it on 101 here. Along with that as well, we do have a structure, which is essentially it's just relating to the gain of each of these channels here. So we're on low right now, and if I crank that up to high, you'll hear it just obviously gives you just a lot more gain to work with. So loads of gain on tap there, just for whatever you're needing. This is obviously just all the sounds that are coming from this amp. I don't have any drive going into it. And actually for each channel as well, with the distortion, you are getting a boost for each of those as well, which again just means that you don't need as many pedals kind of driving into the front or anything like that. So say for example, we are on our gain here, or our channel 2, sorry, with our gain set about there. And then you're going to hear, just as soon as I kick on, there are actually 2 levels of boost that can come on with it. Just bring my foot switch just ever so slightly closer to myself. So in each passage of those chords that I was doing there, and just as I was coming back from the lead playing, I activated the first boost and then activated the second one, and then I kind of brought them back down there as well. So to go from what we're getting with this here, to then kick on the first one, and then the second one. We're almost getting, you know, an extra 2 stages on top of that in terms of gain levels. So you are able to kind of go from where I've set it there, which with dynamics, you can definitely clean it up just that little bit. And then obviously kicking on the boost there just gives you loads and loads of options, just even within that channel itself. There's no surprise that there is tons of versatility in this amp. I've said that right at the start, and you know, we've only gone about halfway through it just now, which is super cool. One thing that I want to touch on before I move on to our next channel, and actually some of the other options as well, which I'll maybe save for the last channel, is this Plexi Mode here. Now this is a feature that has been on the Ecstasy before, and you'll notice when I kick it on, so I've got everything set as I had there, just as you heard it. And then if I kick on Plexi Mode, you see, it kind of does reduce the gain a little bit. Now, the gain still works on that, but where I think that comes in is it's obviously emulating a Plexi in the sense that it becomes like a non-master volume amp. So if you do want to really get that kind of cooking, then you will need to raise that volume. It's not something I'm going to do in here today, just because I will absolutely just rattle my head if I do turn this up any louder than it is right now. But if you do want to get that proper Plexi, crank the volume, crank the gain to really get it breaking up, then that's going to be your option there. Or if you do want the second or the third channel to be more of a kind of clean platform for pedals, then you've got the option with that too. Now moving on to channel 3 here, this is where obviously most of our sort of high gain is going to be coming from, and it is again a shared EQ with that one. But let's start with just this absolutely searing right now and see what we're getting. because I've got the effects driving into the front of it for today, I just wanted to make it nice and easy for myself instead of going through the effects loop. That is going to push that just that little bit. That's why there was those super long trails just at the end. But this is where obviously most of the gain is coming from this amplifier. And it does share the features with the channel 2 as well, in the sense of the gain boost. We've also got the individual bright caps for that as well. But let's just cycle through a couple of the sounds, especially with the switches there, just to see exactly what they're doing. So that definitely tons and tons of gain and tons of sustain on there as well. And I just wanted to actually show the standby switch that's on here, which probably should be called a mute switch in all honesty. You'll notice that the light just came on there. But this is basically just a mute on the pedal, the foot switch that comes with this. So you can really kind of cut that dead if you wanted to, much like I did just with those notes just there. A couple other things as well that I just want to talk to. I want to bring your attention to the left side of this amp as well. Thanks a lot for sticking with me while I describe all of the features of this amp. And there are probably some that I'm not going to get through today as well, because there's just so many options, especially with the back of the amp. There are a couple of additional voicing switches for each of the channel there, especially because this is such a sort of like, as I mentioned, it's, you know, it's a real like celebration of the Ecstasy amp, that you're getting like all the modded versions that Bogner have done over the years. You're getting just like loads and loads of options to play with this. So if you are into this sort of style of amp, you know, proper sort of searing high gain from the distortions, but as you'll have heard with the clean channels as well, that it does have a remarkably nice and vast sort of headroom with the clean there as well. And then obviously you've got your second channel, which can handle your crunches. There's absolutely just tons of options to work with here. But let's just check the presence and the depth knobs as well, because there is a couple of different switches that will adjust the frequency of those. And then there is another option as well that I'm just going to save until the end. But let's just mess about with these, see exactly what we're getting from the scope of these knobs here. So it does get a bit, obviously, quite searing when you raise that presence up there, but obviously equating, like kind of mixing that in with the depth as well, is you're going to get kind of the perfect balance of sound that you would need. I'm finding that both of those work, for me anyway, in that kind of noon position. And certainly with the, the frequency and the depth frequency options there, the presence frequency, sorry, and the depth frequency, is that it just gives you, plenty of options. And I definitely think that that's the kind of like the main takeaway from this amp, is that you're just getting tons and tons of sound to really scope what you need. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife of absolutely, all the sounds that you could possibly want. There's not really any need to throw like a boost pedal in the front. There's not really any need to throw in, like a drive pedal or anything like that to kind of tighten it up, because you do have the structure and because you've got the gain boosts on that side there. And also just as a pedal platform as well, whether it be that Plexi Mode or whether it be channel 1, this has just got so many sounds in it that suits absolutely everybody. Now, the last sound that I want to talk about here, and I'm going to move back to channel 2 for this, and then move on to channel 3 as well, is this SHIZO channel 2 and 3 option that's here. This just gives a couple of different sounds with it as well. So let's hear how it's sounding when I just start initiating it in. So that's about as much as I wanted to cover with the Bogner Ecstasy Pandora today. As I mentioned previously, if I was to go through all of the options on this amplifier, I think it would be obviously a much longer video itself, but the good thing about all of the settings is that they're all quintessentially the sounding of this amplifier. You know, you're not going to switch one of the switches on the back for each channel depending on the voicing or the input or anything like that, and it's going to drastically change the amp. They're all small incremental differences which, you know, for the right person or for, you know, the right guitar or anything like that, it is going to make all that difference for them. And that's, I think, one of the things that I've had the most fun with using this amp today, because actually this is my first time properly using one of these amplifiers, and I'm glad I was able to document it for that. But I'm just finding that all of the sounds are so usable, but just in their own slightly different ways. You know, if I was needing, you know, something, say with a lead or something, I needed it just that little bit warmer or anything, or you know, almost kind of like an Eric Johnson sort of style one or something, I'd maybe look to the depth frequency there, change it to big, you know, kind of put that closer to the top there. If I needed a little bit more gain, you know, I would maybe kick on one of the boosts, or change the structure, or even just like, you know, the kind of the brightness as well, which I was noticing. But I was having an absolute ton of fun with this amplifier today, and certainly for anybody who needs a 100-watt head, you know, whether that be in the studio, whether that be touring or playing any gigs or anything like that, I think taking this out, you're going to be covered for absolutely anything that you need. But let me know what you think about the Ecstasy Pandora in the comments below. Have you used the Bogner before? Are you, using the Uberschall or any of the other ones? I'd love to know what your experience is with them, because certainly I've had a lot of fun with it today. And while you're down there, if you have liked the video at all, a like and a subscribe would be very appreciated, as it really does help the channel, and it keeps you up to date with all the news coming out of Guitar HQ. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and this has just been a look at the Bogner Ecstasy Pandora 100-watt head. Have a great day.